So you probably remember from high school history that centuries ago, people believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. That included the assumption that the sun, the moon, the stars, and the planets all revolved around the Earth. And it was not merely ordinary people who held that view, but also members of the scientific community. This understanding of Earth and its relationship to other celestial bodies, sometimes referred to as geocentric, held sway until the mid-16th century, when it began to be challenged by the work of Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler, who insisted that the sun, not the Earth, was at the center. Gradually, the geocentric model was replaced by the heliocentric one. This change was nothing short of a scientific revolution, or what we now refer to as a paradigm shift. A paradigm is a distinct set of concepts and practices that define a scientific or a social discipline at any particular period of time. And a paradigm shift happens when established theories collapse and new ideas and understandings take their place. Has anybody observed any of those in life? Jerry? Ben? Kathleen? Many other long-held theories, such as our previous understandings of classical physics, were abandoned when better explanations like quantum physics came along. The assembly line shifted the auto industry and then all areas of manufacturing. The internet shifted not only how we get information, but how we communicate, educate, shop, exercise, and now even worship. Right now, researchers are talking about the long-term business culture paradigm shifts that are unfolding as a result of the pandemic. Job security, the supply chain, remote work, the challenge of maintaining work-life balance. Erin, when you're working from home, right? Attitudes that people have about their careers, the great resignation and reconsideration of all of these things. Organizations are being called on to build new practices in the midst of another paradigm shift. And we know from firsthand experience that the church is not immune to these kinds of changes. 10 years ago, Phyllis Tickle wrote in her thesis on the Great Emergence that about every 500 years, the church feels compelled to hold a giant rummage sale. She compared our current paradigm shift to other greats in the history of Christianity, including the Great Transformation when God walked among us in Christ, the time of Gregory the Great Schism, and the Great Reformation. What she was talking about is that religion, once formed, can never be separated from its context. That's true for us as well, right? Here's what she wrote. Just as surely as one of the functions of religion is to inform, counsel, and temper the society in which it exists, just so surely is every religion informed and colored by its hosting society. Even a religion's very articulation of itself takes on the cadences, metaphors, and delivery systems of the culture that it is in the business of informing. Thus, when we look at these semi-millennial tsunamis of ours, we as Christians must be mindful of the fact that the religious changes effected during each of them were only one part of what was being effected, and that all the other contemporaneous political, social, intellectual, and economic changes were intimately entwined with the changes in religion and religious thought. Dang. No wonder these shifts feel seismic. So when a long-accepted explanation of how the world works breaks down or is shown to be flawed for progress to happen, we human beings must accept change that often affects every aspect of our lives. Yes? And you know how that goes, at least for some of us. My friends in AA say that it isn't the change itself that hurts, it's our resistance to change that causes us trouble. So how do we best go with the flow when there's a paradigm shift? Well, the internet has about 1.2 billion answers to my search yesterday for accepting change. So you can go Google that yourself and do research on the question, wink, wink. But our summer stories friend, Robert Fulghum, suggested a key in the kindergarten credo that we're studying in our summer story series. Although one might argue that we really don't need to teach kids about this, rather, we as a society need to teach ourselves not to wean them from it as they grow up. But let me remind you what he said. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup. The roots go down and the plant comes up and nobody really knows how or why. But we're all like that. Be aware of wonder. What a gift. According to the social sciences, the emotion that most helps human beings delve further and leap into the unknown is awe. Awe increases our tolerance for uncertainty and opens our receptivity to new and unusual ideas, which are crucial for paradigm change. Noting that awe is also a spiritual and moral emotion. Hear that. Awe, wonder, curiosity is a spiritual and moral emotion. Experts note that all clear cases of awe have two components: an experience of vastness and a need for a mental accommodation to that vastness. Awe is a self-transcendent emotion because it focuses our attention away from ourselves and towards our environment. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah? Awe, along with curiosity and wonder, are emotions related to the search for knowledge. And in fact, those who lack these emotions don't have the drive to become good scientists that can change their mind on the basis of evidence. And yet, as theologian and the Prince of Paradox, G.K. Chesterton said, that the world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. Let me say that again without making a stumble. The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder. Experts from almost every field tell us that it is good for the soul, good for society, and good for science to lead with curiosity. So why does wonder seem like yet another chore to fit into our overscheduled calendar? Why do we want of wonder, especially when we're wandering? Well, maybe because it is a spiritual and moral emotion. Wonder, by its very nature, cannot be programmed into our calendars. Genuine wonder stops your heart, sucks away your breath, robs you of your speech, freezes you in your tracks. Genuine wonder strikes your psyche without warning and flattens your cool consciousness with a sucker punch. Maybe we have let increasing cynicism and demystifying scientism erode our sense of wonder. We've been content to regulate wonderment to the experiences of the young and the naive. It's true that in our youth we are much more alive to the wonders that surround us. Ever try to take a puppy or a kid for a walk? It takes forever. Not only does the puppy naturally resist the tug of the leash, but it must stop and pounce on every leaf on the sidewalk, investigate every stick in the path, track every bug that crawls along, and of course smell every inch of the earth. Yes, that sounds like how children behave when we let them. All is new. All is wonderful. Maybe you can recall your own experience of wonder. Let me remind you where you've seen that. The sun doing its daily breathtaking thing. The culture and geography of a new place you experienced on vacation. The colors and smells and sounds of some bustling market, even down in Boston. The silence of a sanctuary. The sound of life in a favorite wood. The smells of a walk by the mystic river. The power and the purpose of the ocean, the size and the structure of a mountain range, the vastness of a starry sky. Or maybe you've just recently had the gift of seeing a flower or a bug or a story through the eyes and the spirit of a child. Children and puppies will teach us about appreciating wonder if we let them. In the 16th and 17th century, among the most prized pieces of furniture that well-off families maintained were wonder cabinets. These were simply knick-knack shelves, but dedicated to displaying collections of natural wonders. Our ancestors used to go on what they called marveling in the world. They would go marveling and come back with unique butterflies. They would go marveling and come back with four-leaf clovers. They would go marveling and come back with shimmering seashells. They would put the triumphs of their marveling in their wonder cabinets. And our ancestors also went marveling in the realm of the human. The wonders of nature sat in the wonder cabinets alongside human curiosities such as Egyptian hieroglyphs and even human horns for the marveling of all. Wonder cabinets were like momentary museums to the miraculous, giving their owners the daily chance of a dose of wonderment and marveling. So I wonder, what is in your wonder cabinet? When's the last time you went marveling? A genuine sense of wonder is born when we cultivate an openness to all that cannot be understood, which can scarcely be believed. Bernal Diaz, who accompanied Cortez on the conquest of Mexico and subsequently recorded the adventure in his conquest of New Spain, at one point similarly recalls the Spaniards' first spellbound vision of the Aztec capital. Gazing on such wonderful sights, we did not know what to say or whether what appeared before us was real. Can your mind be blown by God's beauty, blown away by God's bounty, by God's bevy of blessings? And how about the miracle of the human spirit, the beauty and the magic wrought from human creativity, the new ideas imagined by the human mind? And what about the breadth and the depth of the human capacity for love? Just as in the natural world there are occasions and occupants that evoke a sense of wonder, there are in the spiritual world similar moments for examining and exclaiming over wonderments. And that's what the writer of Hebrews collected in his wonder cabinet. Two types of faithfulness. First, he looks at the mighty works God was able to accomplish through the faithfulness of those such as Moses, Joshua, and Rahab. This list of divine accomplishments through faithful followers is so extensive that the author finally gives up on producing an itemized list. I've run out of time, he says. The other type of faithfulness our text speaks of is the faith kept by those persecuted, tortured, and martyred. Truly, such steadfast faithfulness is as awe-inspiring as the parting of the Red Sea, the collapsing walls of Jericho, or the deliverance of the land of Canaan into the hands of the Israelites. A martyr's faith is indeed a wonder. Who can cease being amazed at what humans can accomplish, can endure, can turn to triumph when they live by faith and not by sight? Interestingly, in the 16th century, Bibles were chained books, literally chained to church walls and posts so that overzealous parishioners would not make off with them. I don't think we're going to have that problem around here these days. They were often chained together, though, with Fox's Book of Martyrs, a grisly and gruesome retelling in print and pictures, words and woodcuts of some of the most horrific tales of Christian martyrdom. If the truth be told, it was Fox's sensational book that was ripped off more than the Bible was. But anyway, Fox's work was known as Acts and Monuments, Wonders of God, reminding readers that it was the enduring faith of martyrs, not the singular fate they had suffered, which was the reason they were remembered and honored by the church. Likewise, the author of Hebrews does not glory in the torments and the deaths suffered by the martyrs he showcases. Rather, he displays them so that we might wonder at their faithfulness. We're encouraged then to wonder at the supernatural as well as the natural world. Marvel for a moment about the courage and stamina these and our contemporary martyrs like Martin Luther King Jr., Oscar Romero, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, St. Teresa have reflected in the face of persecution. breathe that in for just a moment, here, now, what it took to stand up for God when all the powers around you insisted that you sit down. To discover the experience of pain and deprivation less real than the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. To realize that generations past, like a great cloud of witnesses, surround us at all times with the testimony of their faithfulness. And finally, as we learn to live into the paradigm shift of being a global culture, wonder will help us make a way. In her call to see no stranger, Valerie Carr, renowned Sikh activist, filmmaker, and civil rights lawyer, describes revolutionary love as the call of our time, a radical, joyful practice that extends in three directions: to others, to our opponents, and to ourselves. It enjoins us to see no stranger, but instead look at others and say, "You are a part of me I do not yet know." Starting from that place of wonder, the world begins to change. It's a practice that can transform a relationship, a community, a culture, even a nation. And so, dear beloved, there is wonder in the air all around us. We are surrounded by a great cloud with many dimensions: the natural world, the human world, the spiritual world. Let us not miss its beauty and power. Let us not fail to be guided and informed by those that have gone before us. Let us see it all with awe and wonder and curiosity, so that we might grow and shift and discover through the wonder that's unfolding right before our very eyes. When is the last time you went marveling? When last did curiosity move you to be or do something different? When was the last time you looked at someone that you did not know with wonder? While we can't really schedule it into our calendars, we certainly can step out into the world and into our lives with the desire to have a wonderful day and thus a wonderful life. God will show us if we open our eyes and our hearts and our spirits to wonder, even and especially when we are wandering. I pray that it might be so for you this week and beyond. Amen.